Good morning, all. This is Jeremy with another Security 101 video. This is our second episode, so I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible. So, we already went over the reason why I'm doing the video series. Now, we're going to go into what could be like your different levels of force, and including how you should conduct yourself or how you should be seen. A lot of people that want to get into security field, they think, oh, well, it's going to be an easy job, which it can be. It can also be a very overwhelming job. And also, mostly 99.9% of the time, it's boring. But you have that 0.09% of the time where it's not. So that being said, like, what I was trained on was the force continuum, which is your different levels of force. So first and foremost is your presence, how you look. You should not look disheveled. You should look professional. You'll be taken more serious if you look professional, instead of having your shirts untucked and wearing leggings or jeggings or anything like that. I'm not saying that the uniforms that the companies provide are the best, because again, they go the cheapest route possible. Me personally, I bought my own uniforms. Then I didn't have to return them, which usually was either 511 BDU or true spec BDU pants, or even proper, depending on how much money I had at the time to buy my own. And again, you can also write it off on your taxes. I mean, you had to spend out the money, but since it's for work, it's a tax write-off. So again, you got your presence first. Your voice is second, so you need to be able to talk. You don't need to talk over anybody, but, and I digress because that's a situation-based thing. But for the most part, you try to also be courteous. Remember, customer service is also part of your job repertoire. Even if you're working armed, customer service is paramount. De-escalating situations the best you can with your words and your voice and your body language is the utmost important thing of all. And then next, after that, after your voice, with your voice, there's different parts in that too. Like, you can actually sit there, talk to somebody normally. You can raise your voice and talk sternly to get their attention, or you can just straight up demand. Again, it all depends. Like your force continuum, that's how it goes. And it goes from your least amount of force up until lethal force. One big thing too is also understand your laws. State, local, city, what have you. Understand them and what you are legally allowed to do, and what the client wants you to do or thinks you should be able to do. I'll give you a prime example. Working armed security at a grocery store in Kansas City, Missouri. I had a manager that wanted me to make sure that nobody was riding the electric carts that didn't look disabled. Well, that actually goes against federal law with the ADA, the American with Disabilities Act. If they're willing to take the liability, that takes it off your shoulders. However, I would digress into letting anybody say that they'll take the liability unless it's in writing. However, now loss prevention in Kansas City, Missouri would take liability for you to put someone in handcuffs because they asked you to. That's a whole different ballgame in itself. Again, know your local laws. Like here in Pennsylvania, I can't put somebody in handcuffs unless they committed a felony, the same as a private citizen can, as in a citizen's arrest. You don't really have arrest powers for probable cause or anything like that here. Now, after your voice, then comes your hands. Going hands-on with somebody, being able to subdue them. Again, that also comes down to your training, which is another thing about continuing training. Excuse me. Then after your hands, Then if you carry a baton, OC spray, your non-lethal and less than lethal items, also good. And then whenever you go from your hands, then you go the baton, OC spray, then you can go into lethal. A baton can be lethal. That's the reason why it's considered to be a less than lethal option, because if used correctly, it should not be lethal. However, things happen, accidents happen, and people move when you're in a scuffle. You also have to realize that to put somebody in handcuffs, if you have to go hands on, you may end up breaking bones. I mean, it's a possibility. It depends on how bad they're fighting. Those situations, you really should not be. If you're working in a place like that, you should not be working by yourself. You should at least have one other person. Now, that being said, going through the force continuum, I'll go more into depth into that later. This is just a generalization. But first and foremost, this is mainly about how you should present yourself. You should be neat, and depending on what your company's policies are, like I have a beard, facial hair, all that. Working, the most that I would do is have a goatee, and my hair would be a lot shorter than what it is right now, because I don't know if you can tell, but my hair is down to my neck. If I was actually working on a job, my hair would be high and tight, only because that's one less thing for somebody to use against me, and goatee only because I have a baby face and I look a lot younger than what I am. But you should go by what your company policies are, and they might be able to give you some exceptions, but you should look neat, tidy, clean. Nails should be kept clean at all times. I've seen guards with dirty nails. It doesn't look the greatest on you, and it doesn't reflect well on your company. And that's the thing. If you guys want to continue working, the company has to still get contracts. That being said, that doesn't mean you need to be a company man and saying yes to everything that comes up. Yes, we all like to make money. And a lot of money can be made in overtime in security. Believe me, I was a field supervisor making somewhere in the neighborhood of $50K a year, but with bonuses and everything else, that was closer to $60,000. And as with me being with a company the second time for a little over a year. Money can be made, but do not get to the point of saying yes to everything, because a company will take a good guard or officer and run you into the ground because they know they can count on you. So you'd have to be able to say no at times. Plus, not only that, it's a job. Your life, your family should be priority. That doesn't mean just take a day off because I just don't feel like it today. But if you really need to take a mental health day, take them. Nobody knows what you're going through but you. With that being said, that's another thing too, that where we're going to get into issues that I have with security companies and things that I think should be in place as far as training and as far as any kind of use of force. Also, whenever it comes down to your personal appearance, like I said, you should look clean, tidy, neat, clean shaven if the company requires it. Tattoos, visibility, that's one of those ones where personally I don't like to see tattoos on the face or the hands. A lot of companies have policies where if you have tattoos, you have to wear long sleeves. They also make sleeves specifically for that. Again, it's up to your company and its personal preference. I have tattoos. Well, one, but still, I have tattoos. But if I'm working, it's covered. I also try to be personable. I try to be approachable. but your presence says a lot about you, and you can have a command presence no matter your size. Height or size does not matter. Now, you'll notice a lot of bouncers are pretty big dudes. That's to give the impression of the amount of force that they can use, not what necessarily they will use. That came from a good buddy of mine that I used to work hotel resort security with. That being said, I'm a short guy. I'm 5'6" and I weigh over 300 pounds. I've been looked at as the muscle for certain places. I don't like that. I like the idea of being able to be talked to, being approachable and personable. Because again, our job is to help. Yes, we have the job also of protecting our clients, their property, and their employees, as well as their patrons and what have you. But again, your first and foremost job is customer service. Secondly, is being that guy that tells them, well, hey, you got to leave, and then making them leave. I've had plenty of instances of that too. Just remember, neat and tidiness, that goes a long way. Again, I understand a lot of people get into this field because they think it's easy money, it's an easy job. And it can be. Don't get me wrong, it can be. However, there's a lot more to it than just, well, you gotta go make rounds here, you have to be able to do this. Well, it's not just that. You also have your attention to detail, which that could come into finding safety issues, whether it's a water leak, a gas leak, somebody planting a pipe bomb, up to somebody carrying a gun concealed or a concealed weapon otherwise. Again, that's where it comes down to. So, let's see what else can there be in this. So, just be neat, tidy, be approachable, personable. Depending on what your company's policies are as far as cell phone usage, that's a whole thing that's up in the air too. I learned how to be on my cell phone but still be in the moment because my mind works constantly and I get bored. So I've learned how to be able to be on my cell phone, but at the same time, be able to do my job and still pay attention to patrons. That doesn't mean I'll catch everything. And even if you're 100% alert all the time, you can't catch everything. There's just no way humanly possible that you can catch every little thing. So if you take anything away from this video, it should be neat and tidy, look professional. That doesn't mean you need to look military and be all stoic and everything else. No, you can be laid back and still look professional. Please do not look disheveled. Please do not. If they tell you black slacks, wear black slacks. Don't go with leggings or jeggings because that just. Not only that, don't wear Crocs or footwear that's not going to protect you in case you have to. In case something does happen and you have to take care of it. That's another thing too. I've seen a lot of guards that'll wear fuzzy slippers to their job sites. Don't care if you wear them to the job site. Don't wear them while working. Don't wear them while you're sitting at a desk. It looks unprofessional. On you, it looks unprofessional. If your supervisors are really doing their jobs, they're going to tell you about it. Now, granted, I worked first, second, and third shift, and on third shift, there's a little bit more leeway because usually there's nobody around. But there's still issues with wearing fuzzy slippers or sleeping on the post. Sleeping on post is a big no-no. Even if you're in a secured site, it's still a big no-no. Find something to keep you awake. That's why, depending on the site, I usually didn't say anything about somebody being on their cell phone because if you're staying awake, you're awake. But that doesn't mean you sit there and you play around on your cell phone all night. Actually, be alert and paying attention to what's going on around you. Also, do not disconnect the security equipment to hook up a video game system. That's just not right either. If you have to, and the site allows and the company allows, talk to them. Say, hey, can I bring my laptop in and so that I can actually, plug it in and maybe watch some DVDs or, do something else between your rounds. Just the only thing is, remember that you're still doing a job. You can't just sit there and play video games all night and not do a damn round, because that's going to catch you up and bite in the ass and possibly end up making you lose your job. However, and I get it, there's a lot of security companies out there, so you just bang around from one security company to another, all because they need warm bodies. That still doesn't look good on them as well as it doesn't look good on you. Like I said, that stuff will come back eventually and bite you in the ass. So if you take anything away from this, just be professional, look the part, be personable, engage with people, talk to people. Don't sit back and just like, yeah, I'm just here going to twiddle my thumbs all day. So that's the end of this episode. I will see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the content, like, subscribe. If you have any questions, any comments, leave them down below. Thank you much. See y'all.